Daniel Ortiz in Angelo, Texas. We had 4 large financial unexpected emergencies, and I knew that I needed something to give us a little more breathing room. And when he mentioned we can skip 2 house payments and wipe out credit card debt and loan debt, so that's exactly what I did. I called them and it did change everything. Diane, she was awesome. She was professional. And the important thing with her is she listened. That's what made all the difference in the world. She was patient, and anytime that I needed to talk to her, she was there. She texted back. It was a different experience from any other place. Well, I can tell you the difference that it made was over $80,000 for us. It freed up that much. My credit score went up 126 points with Save with Conrad, which made it an 802. My name is Daniel Ortiz, and I freed up $80,000 with SaveWithConrad.com.
NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. Woo!
Welcome to WHW Monday. Tony Schiavone and Conrad Thompson.
Jim Crockett, First Arcade, 605 NWA. TV title, Cajun Omni, the Bunkhouse Stampede. Flair and Horseman, Garvin, Bogey, Magnum, Dusty, Express Tag Team. Turner, Bodden, Mid-South Joint World Championship Wrestling.
Talking about the great years of World Championship Wrestling, the NWA, and Jim Crockett Promotions.
Tony and Friends North, they win. Look, Schiavone's back again. World title split off center stage. Bischoff, Disney, Hogan, and Nitro. New World Order and the Crow. Thunder, Russo, Arquette, Champ, Vinnie, Matt, simulcast. Tony's back with Conrad, not your classy podcast. Watch along, try not to laugh. Lowest rules can't pass. This wasn't the initial plan. Tom Zigg's a good-looking man. Klondike Bill, make a champ. Tommy, you come over here.
What happened when? WHW Monday. And now, let's go to the ring. And here's your co-host. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to What Happened When? With the voice of your childhood, Tony Schiavone. Tony, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. Hope you're doing well. And it's great to be with you here for another great day of, hold on, WCW.
Wow, okay. You get a little heartburn just thinking about it?
Yep.
My goodness. Well, I'll tell you what you're not getting heartburn about, and that is tonight. I can't believe this is real.
It is.
The Last Outlaw is going to be in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre with your great close personal friend, Jeff Hardy. Video game installations with professional wrestling. Is this like a dream come true for you, Tony?
No.
Okay. I thought, hey, I love wrestling. I love video games. I love Jeff Jarrett. I love blood. I love when people get their head cut off. I thought this would be your kind of thing.
Well, it is. It's not really a dream come true. A dream come true would be me winning the lotto.
Or Whitney Wright.
Yeah. That would work too. Yeah.
Well, that's happening tonight on Dynamite, and we hope
what Whitney Wright is?
Well, I hope so, because if so, I'm catching, I shouldn't say a last minute flight, because I'll just be right up the road. You know, I can't believe it, but Nashville is the host to this. So we're in Jeff Jarrett's hometown. Tickets are on sale now, AEWTIX.com. You and I have had so much fun in Nashville over the years. That's where we did our famous road trip to Atlanta, and we made a whole episode out of that after a really fun night there in Nashville at Zany's. And now you're coming back under totally different circumstances, and it's going to be a blast. Make plans to join us if you haven't already. And Tony, we're in the home stretch, man. We are just a handful of days away, just over a week away from one of the biggest shows in the history of pro wrestling. Certainly, it's going to be a top 10 all-time pro wrestling gate. And there's over 80,000 tickets sold. As we're recording this, more tickets have been sold for SummerSlam 92 in Wembley. More tickets have been sold than they sold for WrestleMania 3. I mean, just every time you turn around, it's a new record. More than 80,000 tickets sold. I got to think you guys are going to sell this thing completely clean out. There's only like 4,000. I think maybe there's less than 4,000 tickets available. And I'm excited, man. And it's the first time I was talking to Dave Silva about this last week. This is the first time I think I've been excited about a show based on the venue. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of fans are alike in that, because when you think about WrestleMania 3, well, it was Hogan Andre that sold all those tickets. There was a match we all really, really wanted to see. I think what we really want to see now is, hey, man, some of our favorite guys are going to be doing our favorite things in one of the most legendary arenas. Eric Bischoff said on his show earlier this week, 83 Weeks, that the real star of the show is the crowd, because that's what we keep talking about. This building, 80,000, the electricity. I mean, this is going to be like anything you have experienced in your 40-year wrestling career, is it not?
Oh yeah, this will be the top. Of course, I was at WrestleMania 6 at Skydome with a big crowd, and I've seen big crowds before, but nothing on this scope. And I think it has a lot to say about Great Britain and England really wanting to see AEW, and our product, obviously being over there on ITV, has a very big exposure, and that has a lot to do with it. So I just hope that every time you do something like this, you just, even when we do these other pay-per-views, like when we had our first, I don't know, say an All Out, or any pay-per-view, and even the first Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium. My first thought is, I hope we deliver to the fans to make them want to see us again. That's my hope and concern. So I think there's a lot of pressure on the company, to be honest with you, to deliver. And I think, and it not because of anything, but because of nothing but because of 80,000 fans. You've really got to step up and deliver. I think we will. I think we've got some great matches, and some great matches that have yet to be announced. FTR and Young Bucks against each other, to me, is just could steal the show. And all the stars will be there. Sting is going to be a part of it. Saraya is going to be there. Of course, MJF and Adam Cole. It's a 4-way for the women's title. So the stars are going to be there, and you just want to make sure that those 80,000 fans go home happy, which is really a concern for every show we do. Listen, right. You want everybody to go home happy. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. Sometimes they're split. You never know. I mean, I know, obviously, there's going to be thumbs up and thumbs down to the show after it's all over with, but
I don't know that. I mean, you guys have had, I think one of your first AEW shows was 100% well reviews. I mean, that's never happened before in the Observer, I don't think, before or since. I don't mean to set unrealistic expectations, but I will say that there is so much anticipation for this show that I think you're going to have a little bit of latitude. I know there will be some armchair quarterbacks and the naysayers on social media, but I'm saying, as far as the readers of the Observer, I think people sort of get the historical significance of this. And
yeah,
I'm really excited about it. I was hoping to be there. I don't think the stars are going to align and I'm going to be able to make this one, but
whoa,
I'm jealous of you. You know, you've been there at so many of these great moments. Like, I don't think a lot of people even remember this, but the very first AEW show, you're front row ringside.
Yep.
And then fast forward, the very first AEW TV show, you're walking out of the tunnel.
Right.
I mean, you're a part of the program, and now you get to participate in this. It's just real wrestling history. I hope fans can appreciate that and can get excited about that. I know I am. And what we're doing today, our topic today, is really something that was a high watermark, if you will, for WCW. You know, we've broken down Starrcade 1997 100 different ways to Sunday. Right. And the big thing there was, you know, we all know this is the biggest and most successful and largest pay-per-view audience that you guys would ever have. However, the second largest, and I could argue that the company was hotter in 1998. I think your overall top line revenues were even hotter in 1998. You know, the cruiserweights are more established, and now there's a storyline, and people are more excited about that. You've created this Goldberg phenomenon, and now we're just 6 days removed from Goldberg winning the world title on Nitro at the Georgia Dome. What a special, iconic moment that is in WCW history. And then 6 days later, fresh off of the NBA Finals where they played against each other. Like, you couldn't have drawn that up if you wanted to. It was just a happy accident. You've got a super wrestling fan, and who we thought at the time was a really great guy in Karl Malone, teaming up with a perennial babyface here and one of the hot new baby faces in WCW, but one who's not yet won the world title in Diamond Dallas Page, taking on the greatest icon in the history of professional wrestling and maybe his ultimate role, Hollywood Hogan, against a real spectacle, a guy who was a media darling. Before there was a TMZ, there was a Dennis Rodman. And man, he was on the cover of every National Enquirer and People magazine and Sports Illustrated. And he wasn't just this crazy, antic, funny looking hair media darling. He was also arguably the best rebounder in the league.
Yeah.
And quite a personality in an era where the NBA needed and relied on these big personalities. I don't know that there were many that were bigger than Dennis Rodman. So this is a perfect storm pay-per-view. I'm excited we get to cover it. We are under a little bit of a time constraint today. So I want to have everybody go ahead and get their Peacock out and go to Bash at the Beach, Season 5, Episode 1. That's the 1998 Bash at the Beach, if you're a real person. But if you're Peacock, it's Season 5, Episode 1. Then I want you to go to 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 46 seconds. That's 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 46 seconds. We're going to join this show in progress. Let me briefly recap what we've missed on the show by not watching the entire show. That's Raven versus Perry Saturn. These guys have both been a part of Raven's flock. Now that thing has come to a head. They're standing across the ring from one another. We've also got Juventud Guerrera in there wrestling Billy Kidman.
Mm-hmm.
So far, we've got two really great matches on this card. Then we've got Stevie Ray making Chavo Guerrero submit via a handshake to help soften him up for a hair versus hair match directly after with his cousin Eddie, which Eddie wins, and Chavo winds up shaving himself. So that's an interesting story. Of course, this is where we really started to see Chavo as not, quote unquote, just another guy on the show. You know, he's wearing the whole Eddie's my favorite wrestler. There's a real story attached. Before you know it, Homeboy's going to be running around on a hobby horse. Wrestling was still fun in 1998. And then we've got Conan wrestling Disco Inferno, and I spared that one
Thank God.
For you.
Thank you. I'm glad we are fast forwarding through that. If you want to go puke, you can go back and rewind it and watch it later on.
Well, nobody should do that.
Nobody should do that. Conan, we love and respect. Disco Inferno is truly one of the biggest pieces of shit that wrestling ever produced on many levels.
I also want to briefly thank everybody who showed up and showed out for our fun watch along this morning. As a reminder, if you sign up for our Patreon, which is patreon.com/WHW Monday, not only do you get the shows early and ad free and bonus content you can't get anywhere else, including not one, but 2 new episodes where you guys pick what we're watching. That's right. It's totally in your hands. Well, what we're doing over there is we're also doing live watch alongs when we get a chance, sending you some swag in the mail. It's a fun time. But maybe one of the biggest things is this community we build. And a lot of that community shows up to record with us. We've sort of moved to a Monday morning format. And I know a lot of people get a case of the Mondays. Start it with us. Maybe we'll start your week with a little bit of laughs. I want to give a shout out to Airborne 37th and Coach Rosie, DJ Turnip. And of course, Bobby is here. Ken is here. And we just appreciate everybody, including Lindsay, who owes me some cupcakes. I'm well overdue. Doug Ritter is in the house this morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a fun time hanging out and watching this with you guys. But Tony, I think before we get going, you had something that you wanted to share with our audience today.
This was a big surprise for me that it even posted. I know we shot some leads for me for the Countdown show, and so the producers asked me. They said, and this was Saturday night in Greensboro, and they said, "Tell us what this venue means to you." Well, the Greensboro Coliseum means probably more to me than any other venue in pro wrestling. I used to go to the Greensboro Coliseum all the time in the 70s, from like 75 on, every month or whenever they had it, and watch it as a fan. I've got, I don't know if I've ever shown the ticket stubs. I found the ticket stubs for many of the shows that I got there. Then I started, my first real wrestling show was Starrcade 83. So when I got to the Greensboro Coliseum the other day, one of the first things I did was go, because they've revamped it so much and added on to it and made it such a bigger place. They got an aquatic center now. That's part of it. I went down and I found the 2 dressing rooms. They only had 2 dressing rooms back then. 2 dressing rooms where we shot interviews. There's on the open that we have, you see a young Tony Schiavone with that microphone. That's one of the Greensboro dressing rooms where we shot interviews with Harley Race, Ric Flair, all of them back there. So that meant a lot to me. And of course, Greensboro is also where I met Lois. It was my first job in pro wrestling. It was my first job out of college once I moved away. So Greensboro had a lot, has a big meaning for me, the city and the Greensboro Coliseum. So we did this little talk about it. Talk about the Greensboro Coliseum, what Greensboro means to you. So I did, and they put it on an AEW Instagram post, which I thought was pretty cool. And so I think we can play that right now.
When I was going to high school,
Man, how well done was that? How cool is that?
That's really cool. So just to
Let's
let you
give a shout out to some of the AEW people who put that sort of thing together.
Yeah, Giancarlo obviously shot it and came up with the idea, and Giancarlo is one of our producers, just a great kid, and
one of the best that ever did it, and slipped right through the fingers of WWE. Like, he really made his mark, at least in my opinion, with Game Changer Wrestling. He used to come up with such creative stuff.
Yeah,
and really leveled up their presentation, and I couldn't believe that WWE saw the value and took him, because sometimes it feels like WWE sees something and it just, they just don't get it. Well, they got him, or so I thought, brought him in, had him do a bunch of stuff that wound up getting shelved, and then laid him off. And now he's with you guys, and we get great stuff like that. So bravo to Giancarlo. Doesn't get enough of his props. I know when we were looking to do Ric Flair's last match, I just wanted him to literally do anything.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Just come up with something, because you'll think of something way cooler than we did. And that made that building special. I mean, kudos. High five to Giancarlo. Well-deserved props.
Yeah, he's a great kid, very talented guy, and just a genuinely nice human being too, which makes it all the more fun to be able to work with him. I did say in that video, and I want to explain it, I did say good and bad Lois, right? We had good and bad times here, Lois. When Lois and I first started dating and then eventually got married, the radio station we worked at, WKW, was very unkind to Lois.
What?
And it was terrible. It was terrible. I didn't realize when I first got there, but then after I started dating Lois, I realized that the radio station was full of terrible people, and they treated Lois like shit, and they fired her for dating me. So just a reminder to her that not everything was rosy in Greensboro. And I would shit on all the people at WKEW that were terrible to Lois, but they're probably all dead right now. So there you go.
Well, fuck them. You know? Hey, let me tell you, maybe it was time to go cold turkey on those turkeys. And that may be great on sandwiches, but there is a better way to break your bad habits. We're not talking about some weird mind voodoo from your crazy neighbor, or maybe Papa Shango putting a spell on you. We're talking about our sponsor, Fume. They look at the problem in a different way. You see, not everything in a bad habit is wrong. Not everything. So instead of a drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? Well, Fume is an innovative, award-nominated device that does just that. You see, instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. Instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy, and it makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for your fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. Now, my wife is somebody who's been looking to break a habit for a while, and the first time she tried it, it was way more flavorful than she thought. She really liked the crisp mint. They've got a ton of other great flavors like raspberry lemon and orange vanilla and white cranberry and maple. I bet that's Arn Anderson's favorite if I had to guess. It's well weighted. It's perfectly balanced. It's fun to play with in your hands. It's a beautiful real wood apparatus, and it's a fun shape too. You just feel cool using it. Stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, it's enjoyable, and hey man, it's even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers already, and now they have thousands of success stories. And there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup with the destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com and use our code WHW. You'll save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use the code WHW to save an additional 10% off your order today. That's tryfume.com/WHW. Use that code WHW to save an additional 10% off your order today. So Tony, we're excited to catch up with what we're doing here. We hope you're watching along with us. It's a 2-screen experience, if you will. We want you to fire up your Peacock and then watch Tony and I react to some good and bad stuff. That's easy. That's WHW on YouTube.com. WHW on YouTube.com. And listen, maybe what you want to do is you want to watch us cover the Nitro where Goldberg beat Hulk Hogan for the world title, because that happened 6 days right before this. And then we'll jump into the show here, man. So Tony, I'm locked and loaded, ready on my end. And the rumor is you have a special countdown for us. Is that right?
It's another one from DJ Turnup.
I love it.
And that's why DJ Turnup is with us. He just only joins us in the morning to be able to listen to his countdown.
As he should.
As he should, because they are very well done.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
DJ, turn up!
Why would anybody want to go to Ackworth, Georgia?
Well, listen, I like Ackworth, Georgia, okay?
No, you don't. What do you like there? The goddamn Waffle House? Ackworth sucks.
No, it doesn't. See, now you're turning into one of those. You're turning into one of those Alabama fuckers online, okay? So don't do that.
You know my favorite restaurant in Ackworth, I'm going to be honest with you, it's Rico's Mex-Mex Grill. I'm being serious.
Yeah, I know you are. Okay, so anyway, where are we watching a match here?
I'm over here at and it says Henry's Louisiana Grill is the #1 restaurant, and I agree. Fish Time is #2. Tony Reed's rap.
Understand many great basketball players are in attendance tonight to see Rodman, to see Karl Malone, to see DDP, to see Hollywood Hogan, and of course to see the world champion Goldberg. With that in mind, David Pinker, this one's all yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next contest at Bash at the Beach is a one-fall special challenge match. Introducing first, representing the black and white of NWO Hollywood. He stands 7 feet 4 inches tall, and tonight weighs in at 519 pounds. He is the Giant!
Dude, your production here is so tight. That might have been the best I've ever seen from y'all.
Great setting, right? With the sand and
not just the great set, but I'm saying the way you're delivering the excitement about how the NBA stars are here.
Right.
You immediately transition to introducing David Penzer. He hits it right on time.
Right.
The set looks phenomenal. The music sounds great. The camera's switching angles like it's an old Batman heel thing.
Right.
It just looks phenomenal. The crowd is sold out. Look at the lights in the arena bouncing around.
Yeah.
This looks big time, man. This is
Yeah.
this is what I grew up on. I was such a huge fan here. I had just turned 17, probably jerking my gherkin more than I needed to in that era. But what a fun time. Oh shit. Here comes Kevin Green.
Yeah, the late Kevin Green. One of the
What a great
guys.
football player. What a great human being.
Yeah.
But then when you think, oh shit, it's going to be Kevin Green and the Giant, I don't know how good of a match this is going to be.
Yeah. Kevin. And by the way, speaking of Kevin Green and former NFL players, as we know, Mongo took a turn for the worse, but I guess he's kind of bounced back a little bit.
Hey, you got to go home.
Yeah, I got to go home from the hospital.
Yeah, I talked to Rick this past week, and he said, man, this one was really, really close. And I know Mongo's lovely wife is asking that he be enshrined into the NFL Hall of Fame. Of course, the first chance to do that would be 2024. And I hope, man, I really hope that he lives long enough to see that happen. Like, I know that's happened a few times in wrestling where, like, Vader was on stage to help induct Stan Hansen, and then unfortunately, Vader himself passed away before he got the chance to go in. And I know his son Jesse did a great job, but it means so much to these guys at the end of their life to be able to have that opportunity.
Sure.
And Kevin Green's another one of those guys, man, who was gone so young. I mean, look how great he looks here. I mean, this is a real big time professional athlete here.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, dude, I think he passed away at like, what was it? Like 58 years old or something?
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't believe he was 60 when he passed away. Yeah, absolutely.
it's just hard to imagine, man. You know, this guy who's in this peak physical condition here that we see. He looks like a pro wrestler, by the way. He's tall, he's jacked, he's athletic, he's got that long mane. I mean, he's got the hair like he's ready to flip it around to sell for some punches or something.
You know, Kevin Green came along, and so did Steve Mongo McMichael, and obviously many athletes came along before they had all these things at their disposal to help with their health. As far as nutritionists are concerned, and I don't know if you watched it on one of our Instagram posts on AEW, but we were recently in the Jacksonville Jaguars facility. They have a brand new facility. They're rebuilding the stadium and everything, but they've built the facility and the training facility. They have a cryo chamber.
Wow.
They have nap pods. They have nutritionists. Everything the NFL makes bukus of money, more money than any other sports league. So, but they've taken that money and they've helped out a great deal. Their athletes get in better shape, and thus I feel the athletes today that you're going to see are going to live longer. I'm not saying that what happened to Mongo and what happened to Kevin Green was a direct result of playing in the NFL. I'm just saying it's a better situation for him right now.
It's fun to go back and watch this stuff from 98. You know, this show, by the way, I want to mention is in San Diego at the Cox Arena. There's 9,031 fans who were paying, but there's 10,095 fans in the building. So just over 1,000 comps.
Yeah.
It's a $314,840 gate, another $100,000 in change in merch.
Yeah.
This is an all-time record for San Diego, but in this era, every city you went to was a brand new record.
Sure.
More importantly, though, you probably could have charged more money for this. You probably left money on the table because there's media from around the globe here. There's lots of local media from San Diego, of course, but because of Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman, there's tons of media from Chicago and Salt Lake City.
Right.
But nationally, USA Today's here. Sports Illustrated's here. The New York Daily News is here. The AP is here. ESPN is here. Entertainment Tonight is here. I mean, this is crazy. And preliminarily, it looks like 525,000 people bought the show. Back then, they used to give a buy rate number that was a 1.5 buy rate, which is nearly $7 million as a gross. I mean, that's pretty doggone crazy. I mean, when you really break down what the media aspect of this and the value of these celebrities are, Meltzer would say that it's roughly 2.9 million in revenue on the show, but just because of this national publicity. And he styles that perhaps they're being paid 1.25 together, which you got to think is a pretty good damn deal.
Yes. You're talking about all these numbers and all this exposure.
Yeah.
You know the single reason all this happened?
Because DDP went to a basketball game and he saw Karl Malone. Karl Malone spotted him and threw up the diamond cutter. Is that right?
That had a lot to do with it.
But what was it?
Hulk Hogan.
Oh, yeah.
Hulk Hogan, who was bigger than wrestling star.
For sure.
Put eyes on us. And Dennis and Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman gravitated to us because of Hulk Hogan. Now, obviously, Eric Bischoff worked out the deal.
Right.
But we wouldn't have been able to do any of this shit without Hogan on our side.
Right.
So, say what you want about Hulk Hogan. People have said it. Dave Meltzer has run him down. It's been a big part of Dave Meltzer to run him down, to run Dusty Rhodes down. Fine. Say what you want as a fan, but that's how much Hogan meant, bringing in Hulk Hogan meant to this company. I'm not discounting Diamond Dallas Page because he was a big part of a lot of things, including a big part of Jay Leno. But it's all.
Well, and how about this? As big of a wrestling star as he was, as successful as a club promoter as he was, DDP's legacy and greatest contribution to humanity won't be hitting people with diamond cutters or getting them drunk at Betty Jane's or whatever the shit the name of that bar was. Instead, it'll be helping people.
Yeah.
And he did so much to help Scott Hall. He's done so much to help Jake Roberts. Now he's doing so much to help Buff Bagwell. But I just mean regular folks, not wrestling celebrities, but regular folks.
Right.
And I just think the world of DDP, just such a super positive guy, always moving forward, always encouraging people. And shout out to him. He's doing the real Lord's work. By the way, this match is better than anybody had any right to think it would be. I mean, Kevin Green's not a professional wrestler, and oh no, looks like he just walked into a choke slam. Let's take a listen here.
About a goal line stance. That was it. The Giants got him in a touchdown. Green is down. Green is out.
Listen, that's what should have happened, but a lot of times when you see a celebrity on a wrestling pay-per-view, you think they're going to win. That's what happened with Lawrence Taylor at WrestleMania. And Meltzer would say that was a first, a pro athlete with almost no wrestling experience actually losing to a major wrestling star on pay-per-view. Star and a quarter. Listen, I didn't expect it to be Kawada Misawa, but goodness gracious, that was better than it had any right to be. It was fun. It was short. It told a cool story, and it got over the choke slam. Not a bad job there.
Yeah, it was good. And I remember thinking the same thing, that, wow, put the Giant over. But, Kevin, when it came to wrestling, got paid a little chunk of money, didn't mind putting him over, didn't hurt his career at all, and there you go.
So we see backstage Stagger Lee Marshall talking to the former Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, who's going to be Goldberg's opponent. Sadly, neither one of them are still with us. I think that's Chad Diabate over on the right.
Sure is.
The world's thickest keyboard. As the story goes, as you see the domain here, WCWWrestling.com, which is kind of funny because, well, the last W in WCW is wrestling. So basically we're saying, yeah, go to World Championship Wrestling.com. Well, it's because some kid in the suburbs of Atlanta had cyber squatted and taken the domain, and he was sitting on WCW.com. Mike Weber got him a check, a couple boxes of t-shirts, and they let it go. So, hey, we got a recap here with Booker T, Chris Jericho, and Malenko. Let's listen to this package here.
tonight, come on out here and face me. The time has come for us to settle this once and for all, Daddy-O. So come on down. Come on down here. Oh! Axe kick in the back of the head. 1, 2, 3. Pretty apparent what went down right there. Uh-oh, hold on here. JJ does not need to be in the middle of this thing.
Hey, hold it. You both have been put on written notice that there's to be no physical contact between either of you prior to Bash at the Beach on Sunday. And if either of you makes a move and touches the other, immediate disqualification for Bash at the Beach.
We both grew up without our father's guidance. We both grew up with our fathers on the road, missing him, just as your young daughter misses you while you're on the road, Dean. And think about your dad. Think about how lonely he must have been. Every night in a different city, every night in a different hotel. He must have craved human companionship. And think about how hard it must have been for your mother. And have you ever wondered why you and your brother look absolutely nothing alike? That's enough. Oh. That's enough. He snapped. He snapped. And do you blame him at all? I was snapped before. And
So a really fun story here. We're actually giving the cruiserweight stories beyond just having matches. And a big part of that, of course, is Chris Jericho, who I still contend was doing his best work of his career in 1998. Yep. I know he's gone on to do much better stuff, but this is the first time we saw Chris Jericho's personality, and it happened here at WCW. He wasn't just a white meat babyface who could do some cool or hot moves. He was actually capable of telling stories. And if you were watching along with us at the Nitro here at the Georgia Dome, when he first came out to distract Dean Malenko during the match with Booker T, he had an airbrush shirt that he did on his own that said Monday Night Jericho. So it took the Monday Nitro logo and just altered it to say Monday Night Jericho. That was such a cool design. WCW made the actual shirt, put it for sale. I had one, absolutely loved it. Really cool shirt. And man, the physicality here was real with him and Eddie, or him and Dean. Not to say they weren't, doing wrestling punches, but he's yanking out gobs of hair. And as Mick Foley's done before, that's his real hair coming out of his real head. This is a real story now, where there's stakes. It's not just about, I want to beat you for the title. No, there's a story. I want to kick this guy's ass. And as always, Jericho's coming out to the ring here at Bash at the Beach, trying to reinvent himself. He's got a little cane and a top hat. Dude, his entertainment level in this era, he was coming into his own. This was great stuff.
The beginning of a major star in pro wrestling.
Yes.
We were watching. And you know what? I don't think I knew at the time that what we were seeing.
Here he comes on the mic here. Let's listen to what he says.
So why me? All right. You all know the story. Stinko Malenko, you went and got yourself suspended. So you robbed all the fans of the match tonight. But I would never, ever rob the fans. I told you I was going to come out here and do a little soft shoe routine. I got my top hat. I got my cane. So I'm going to break it down for you and do a little soft shoe for you right now. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. What are you doing out here? Can't you see I'm going to do a little soft shoe for these people? Sing a little song. What's wrong with you, man? Get a life. JoJo.
Look, I just wanted to come out here and to say that maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I misjudged you. And if I was wrong about you, I would be the first one to come out here and publicly say I was wrong, offer an apology. Let's let bygones be bygones.
Well, thank you very much. It's about time.
But I just sense that I'm surprised how many fans you really have. I have to admit it.
Millions. Jerichoholics everywhere.
And I sense that a lot of these people came here tonight, and I think there's a little bit of disappointment because they really wanted to see you not only see you wrestle, but they wanted to see you defend your belt.
Yes, they did.
I just think they're really disappointed.
They are disappointed, but it's Malenko's fault. What can I do, JoJo? I'm here. He's not here.
Well, I didn't get a chance to discuss it with you before, but I got on the phone to see if there wasn't somebody I could find locally that maybe would come down here spur of the moment. And there was one guy that said, I'll come down, very short notice. You know, the thought of being in the ring with you, the champion, pay-per-view audience, millions of people said he would come down, but I don't know. Maybe, it's really up to you.
A local guy? An independent jabroni sort of thing?
He hasn't wrestled 6 months.
Hasn't wrestled in 6 months, and he wants to come in the ring with me for a title shot. Not very experienced young man. Can it still be a no disqualification match? Huh?
You really want to know disqualification?
Well, this young guy's got to learn a trick or two from the master, from the master.
He hasn't wrestled 6 months. That might be taking advantage.
I'll tell you what, I'll bring this kid up to a different level. Bring in this jobber right now. Let me do a little match with him. I'll teach him a thing or two. Let's get this thing. Yeah, I'll do it. Sure, I got some time to kill. I think the people want to see me wrestle. That's why they came.
Yeah, you're not kidding. We do. You'll accept it?
Yeah, why not? Chris Jericho equals buy rate.
All right, then it's official. We'll have a title match.
Bring it in.
Oh,
hey, we know that music. We know that music very, very, very well.
How well done was that, man? The local guy is Rey Mysterio Jr. He's coming off an injury. He hasn't wrestled in 6 months. And here he is. We're going to get Rey Mysterio versus Chris Jericho. Nice little twist. Nice little surprise. This is well done, man. That was super fun.
I liked it. And Ray looks like $1 million here too.
Yes.
Yeah. We think we kind of missed the shot of Jericho's face when the music hit.
Yeah. Should have nailed that.
Yeah. But of course, again, armchair quarterbacking and there we go. There was a question in the chat it's from Airborne 37th. Anyone know why they do freeze frames now instead of a full shown watch along with the logo over it? Legal matters.
YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah. We just tried to do a watch along yesterday with Eric Bischoff, and we normally add that logo in post. They struck down the live feed while we were still doing it. So I know
there you go.
Silva is going to try to add it in the post, but realistically, you're not going to be able to see a doggone thing.
Right.
It's a whole new ball game with WWE. Once upon a time when it was just Vince and he knew. And listen, let's make no mistake about it. The reason Bruce and I got a TV show with them on the network is they could see whenever we talked about something or we pushed something, man, the views on that episode just went through the roof. So they reached out. We became their first podcast on the network, and that worked out so well. Bruce is helping run the show now. So, but unfortunately, it's no longer just the Vince McMahon show. And boy, they're policing and cracking down on that sort of thing. Yeah, we would love to find a way to do that. If we were a legitimate news source like Vice, we can call ourselves a news organization. But that's hard to do when we're talking about Tony's baby dick instead of actually breaking news. So because we're classified as entertainment and not news, we can't do what Vice does. So there's your reason. By the way, this is a decent little match. Yeah, it gets 2 3/4 stars. I say little match because it's only 6 minutes. This is going to be fun though. I don't think I've ever not enjoyed a Rey Mysterio match, especially in this era. We did get a bunch of other questions, Tony. When we were doing this. Let's do a few. Bobby here wants to know, when did you get the run sheets for the night? Did you have a chance to make notes on them? Would you leave them at the table, or did you take them home with you at the end of the night?
Actually, they collected them at the end of the night and shredded them.
Oh, okay.
So, and I'm not so sure when that started, but I'm thinking around this era. And it depended. When we first started, we got run sheets earlier, and then as we moved on and things got more out of sorts, and there was a time, and I've made this mention before, that I love the fact that they're going to fight in the sand.
Jericho took a bump into a sandcastle. off the lifeguard stand into the sandcastle. Let's listen to you guys doing silly commentary.
Okay.
It's got to be irritating. Up on top, Rey Mysterio Jr. Holy smokes.
Looks like
A Hurricane Rana off of the lifeguard stand into the sand. These pay-per-view themed sets, man, it's
Yeah.
something we hear about all the time in the comments as we do our shows.
Mhm.
People absolutely loved them. And my understanding is guys like David Crockett, they were really important in figuring out the look
Oh, yeah.
and feel of this sort of thing, right?
Sure they were. David worked. David was kind of in charge of all this, the look and everything. So yeah, absolutely. And he had some great people work with him too. Will Bird is one that comes to mind. Steve Small is another one that comes to mind. Steve actually is still with AEW. And I know I'm missing some other people that worked on it, and I apologize, kind of. But yeah, we got Airborne 37 on here. 37th on here. It's kind of WWF had much better creators. Okay,
What does that mean?
I don't know what that means.
He's saying music was not WCW and TNT's bread and butter. Yeah. So,
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah,
so
right.
yeah. I mean, let's call it what it is.
Yeah,
We've got Jimmy
He's
Hart
right.
over here helping, and
That's
we're
right.
also got this big library of music. And so some of the music that you heard
Yeah.
in this era was just stuff that was, in the library that was free to license and use. And so
Right.
you will even hear, like, I know some people have been like, and I forget who, maybe it was Ming, maybe it was Chris Adams, but other folks before Goldberg used that theme used it in WCW.
Sure.
But that same thing is true. Like, I think over on the WWF side, there were guys who were using Kurt Angle's theme before Kurt had it.
Yeah.
Because it was just one of those things that's in the library. But Jim Johnston is an absolutely legendary creator, and I would think that the four pillars of wrestling theme music, in my opinion, are Jim Johnston, Jimmy Hart, Mikey Ruckus, and Dale Oliver. And a bit of breaking news here. I don't know that we've officially announced this. We have a music panel, the music of AEW, that we will be discussing at StarCast. Mikey Ruckus will be on stage. He's going to be showing you how some of these songs are created and perhaps even performing some live. Dale Oliver, who did all the fantastic themes in TNA, he's going to be joining him as well. A lot of people may not realize this, but Mr. Oliver also works for AEW these days. So you're going to have two guys who have created the vibe for a lot of our favorite moments in wrestling who will be on stage at StarCast. I can't wait for you guys to see that. It's the panel I might be most excited about. It's up there with Kawada. It's up there with Tony Khan. All of those will be happening on stage at starcast.com. That's STARRCAST.com. When you get a bracelet, you get access to all of those panels from two separate stages. And in addition to that, you get to meet some of your favorite wrestlers. My goodness, after the distraction, Rey Mysterio just won, and it was based on a distraction from Dean Malenko, who's now giving chase to Jericho, who's hightailing it out of there. Less concerned about his belt and more concerned that Dean Malenko is going to whoop that ass. And as soon as he comes through the curtain, there's Arn Anderson running interference, holding him. There's Malenko whooping that ass in the backstage area. Let's take a listen.
Our cameras follow Malenko in the back. Malenko suspended, but as we said, he wasn't here to wrestle. There is your cruiserweight champion, deservedly so, Rey Mysterio Jr. Oh, what a moment this was. What a comeback by this young man.
And to win it in what is basically his hometown, just minutes from where he grew up, and only 15 miles or so from where he learned his trade at the wrestling school of his uncle in Tijuana, Mexico.
So as you might or may not recall, on TV the next night, the title's given back to Jericho because they're claiming that a suspended wrestler, Dean Malenko, was at the arena and he may have in some form contributed to the win, and that the result of the match becomes null and void. Listen, it was a fun moment. It's a great story, and it's the first time, or one of the first times, that we saw a cruiserweight story. And how cool is it for Ray really early in his career to win this belt just a few miles from Tijuana, and literally in his current hometown, then, now, and maybe forever, he's a San Diego boy.
Good stuff. And a good-looking Cox Arena that obviously AEW's run in. The Vallejo, I think it's called the Viejas Center now. Well, Bret Hart's coming out.
Yeah, man, this is going to be a fun match, and one I have to admit I kind of forgot ever happened. It's Booker T and Bret Hart for the television title, and Bret Hart is on the way to the ring right now. We're going to take a timeout, Tony. I'm going to stop it down at 1:32:20, so in about 7 seconds here, as we see Bret making his way to the ring. He's not coming in for the world title or the U.S. title. Bam, 1:32:20. We'll stop right there. He's coming in for the TV title. I know what you're thinking. Why is Bret wrestling for the TV title? It's almost like Bret, or maybe Eric Bischoff, had a hard on for Bret. Well, maybe he did. And if you'd like to get a hard on, can we recommend Blue Chew? Tony has told me that Blue Chew makes his penis so hard even a cat couldn't scratch it. I had to look up and figure out what that means, but it means it's real hard. It's not very pliable. Guys, remember the days when you were always ready to go? Well, now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. Listen up, it's BlueChew.com. This is a unique service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. And the process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And here's the best part. It's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door, all in a discreet package, but there won't be anything discreet about your package. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. So discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it. Now, I just want to mention, guys, this isn't just something that you use if you're having a problem, right? This is for guys who want to put on a 5-star performance. This is for guys who want to leave a lasting impression. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code WHW at checkout. Just pay the $5 shipping. That's it. BlueChew.com. The promo code is WHW. Get that first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast and Tony's Wiener. So let's get back to the program. We're at 1:32:20. That's 1:32:20. We're focused on a kid wearing a DDP shirt who says Bret Hart has no heart because he's maybe a bad guy. It's interesting to see what we're doing with Bret Hart, and the answer is misuse. Let's take a listen to what you guys are saying about him as he comes to the ring.
Pretty good claim to it, Mike. He's not only an instigator, he's a master of manipulation. And this master manipulator got just the reaction that he wanted from Booker T. Twice he used the steel chair to nail Booker T from behind. Remember last month on Thunder?
Yes.
He tried to influence that 7th match in the best of 7 series with Chris Benoit. Then 2 weeks ago on Nitro, Hart again interfered, causing the Harlem Heat to lose a tag team matchup. And if his strategy was to goad Booker T into a title match, it sure worked to perfection, didn't it?
He tried to turn Piper against Savage, Savage against Piper. He said, this man lied, this man did lie. He did it all himself.
One of the all-time great theme songs in wrestling, and I think one of the all-time great sets. I love seeing the guys walk down the boardwalk here, if you will, on the way to the ring. This is a really cool set. It works for me. There it is. Off right in the mic. We like that.
Anyway, yes. Let me say something about the television title.
Okay.
Maybe people would say that Eric was trying to push Bret Hart down. I think just the opposite. I think that we were trying to elevate the television championship.
Right.
By having a star like Bret Hart vie for it. Well, that's how you do it. So I look more at the positive side of it than the negative side of it. And of course, there's a lot of people out there that that's all they do is look at the negative side of shit because they're negative people around the world. We know who they are. We know whom they are. They are SAWFT soft.
Soft. What a fun match this is. No matter what belt is on the line, you've got really one of the greatest WCW performers, and arguably when you take a look at what he did after WCW, Booker T was it. And even when you talk about what he did in WCW, he's the most decorated wrestler in WCW history. I don't know that a lot of people put that together, but
no,
if you were to consider that this is a quote unquote real sport, I know that sounds silly, but if this were a quote unquote real sport, you have to appreciate all the accolades that this guy had. I mean, we're talking about a 4-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, a 6-time World Television Champion, a 5-time WCW United States Champion, a 10-time WCW World Tag Team Champion. And then, by the way, once he goes over to the WWF, he wins the WCW title there. He wins their World Heavyweight title once. He wins their World Tag Team Championship 3 times. He wins the WCW Tag Team title another time, the Intercontinental title once, their U.S. title 3 times, the Hardcore Championship twice, the King of the Ring once. He's in the Hall of Fame not once, but twice, both as an individual and as Harlem Heat. If we count TNA, the Legends champ, he was the 1-time and the inaugural champ. He was a tag team champ. I mean, this is a guy who literally collected gold no matter where he went. And when you count just how many title reigns in WCW, it's Booker T, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of surprising to some people and really surprising to me if you think about it, because, you know, all the titles and all the title switches and all the title matches kind of get lost to me because of all the stuff we do. But yeah, you're right. It's Booker T, and deservedly so. Which got me thinking when you were talking about this, when did WWE or Vince McMahon give up on WCW as a part of WWE and as a championship?
November 2001.
Really?
Yeah, so they got it started in, we'll call it June or July of 2001, and it's completely crapped out by November 2001. That Survivor Series was the end of the Invasion angle, and that December they decided to unify the titles, and the first unified champion, undisputed champion with both the WWE Big Eagle and the WCW Big Gold belt was Chris Jericho. So they combined both of those belts for a few months, and then at some point in the first part of 2002, they designed a new belt made by Joe Marshall out of Ohio. They called the Undisputed title. And then it was just sort of forgotten for a few years. And then I think in 2005, I might have that wrong, but at some point, I probably do have that wrong. At some point, Eric Bischoff brings out a briefcase, opens it up. There's a big gold belt and says, "Here you go, Triple H, you're the new champion." And they brought the big gold belt back. And now we had sort of 2 world titles in the WWE. And now I guess there's fucking 3. I don't really understand. There's the world title, and then there's the universal title, and there's also what Seth Rollins has. So that's 3, but now Roman's carrying around a gold belt too. So I don't know what we're even doing with that one, but it's a little silly. But back then, yeah, man, it was a big deal to see somebody be the WWF champ and the WCW champ. That was very well done. They're telling a great story in this. You know, Brett's wrestling like a heel because he is, but eventually he's going to start wielding a chair and he's going to get DQ'd. But after the match, he just keeps going after Booker T's bad knee with that chair. Yeah. We're doing all this because T really needs arthroscopic knee surgery. He's got a torn meniscus and a 2nd-degree tear of his MCL. He's supposed to be out of action for like 6 weeks. And after he's done all of this to Booker with the chair, he's going to put the figure 4 around the ring post, and then Booker T is going to show up. I'm sorry, his brother Stevie Ray is going to show up, and he's going to walk down to the ring slowly, never touch Brett, and instead of yelling at Booker T and telling the doctor, he's going to tell the doctor that he doesn't need help, and Ray and the ref are going to carry him out of there. But Ray's acting kind of indifferent to it all. 2 3/4 stars. Interesting little story, I suppose. I know that, Vince McMahon used to tell Bruce Pritchard, brothers don't fight. But you would have liked to have seen a little more compassion from Stevie Ray here, but Stevie Ray at different times was a part of the NWO, and we know Booker T never was.
Yeah. Brothers don't fight. If it's a good storyline, brothers do fight.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. If it's a good storyline. And not to dwell on WCW, but we are watching a WCW event. So you're telling me that WCW lasted about 8 months with WWE.
Oh, less than that, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. Not surprising.
Well, here's what they did, man. They really bungled it. And Eric Bischoff and I talked about this recently, but they didn't bring Ric Flair right over. They didn't bring Goldberg right over. They didn't bring Sting right over. Yeah. Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. I mean, a lot of the people that were really associated with WCW, they're not there. Yeah. And if we would have had Lex Luger and Goldberg and Ric Flair and okay. No disrespect to the folks who were there, but it was guys like Booker T and DDP and Lance Storm, and those are great performers. But it's just part of the crew, like, don't get me wrong. I guess if you've got one of the Beatles, you've got something cool. But when fans were expecting the Beatles and it's just Ringo, well, it's not really the Beatles now.
Wasn't it up to the guys, though, kind of either take the money or go to work or something like that?
Well, no, that's true. What WWF was offering is they were saying, now listen, we know you could make 2 or 3 times the money and sit at home and do nothing. But we would love to pay you half and come work your ass off. And guys decided, no thanks. Yep. I'll just sit at home and make twice as much. And that's a logical, great decision. But my argument was always, well, why don't we fucking wait to do the angle?
Right.
I think one of the things that wrestling lacked, and I think a lot of this started in the Crash TV era, is we were so focused on, we've got to do something special this week. We've got to do something special today. Crash TV became the new thing, and we lost patience. And I think when we've exhibited patience in wrestling, it really pays off and people get more and more excited about it. And I think there's a lot of times where we can see, it was too much, too fast, too soon. That almost never works.
Yeah.
So a little bit of patience goes a long, long way. Well, there just wasn't any being exhibited there. Man, I love watching Bret Hart wrestle. I would give anything to see this version of Bret Hart able to wrestle just one more match. I mean, we know that's not going to happen. Father Time does no jobs. But can you imagine what a Bret Hart versus a CM Punk or a Kenny Omega or a Bryan Danielson or just any of the top stars that you guys have in AEW?
Yeah.
Bret Hart versus any of those guys. Can you imagine FTR and Bret Hart on the same team? Or what if it was Bret and FTR and CM Punk against the Elite or something silly like that? Like, that would be amazing. And those damn time machines, they're out of order. We got to get Doc on it,
There's nothing like fantasy booking. And you're right. Those are great, great names and would do spectacular work in the ring and draw big time money. I don't think there's any question. I think there's another thing, and I know I've mentioned this many times, another thing about the demise of WCW under the WWE banner that comes into play here. And I knew, I wasn't watching, but I knew it when it was sold, I knew eventually it was going to happen. Vince was not going to give WCW its day. He eventually was going to destroy WCW. And it didn't matter if it worked or if it didn't work. There was no plans to make WCW a viable product.
Right.
I really believe that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Bruce knows better than I do. And he might. But that's my feeling about what Vince thought about WCW.
It's going to be a fun show. What we've got coming up here in just a few days at All In. There's that figure 4 around the ring post. We're going to be winding this one down. This feels like a good time for us to talk about some of the questions that we got, because we got so many.
Okay.
Adam Leeson wants to know, who do you think looked the best in a Hawaiian shirt, Tony? Of course, you guys at the announcement desk, you're all wearing Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah.
Who was looking the most dapper?
Heenan.
Ben Ledbetter wants to know, Tony, I love you, but was it planned for you to be laid twice on the program? Of course, we saw you get laid twice during the course of this show.
Yeah, it was planned for me to get laid twice.
Was that something you used to do in 98? Get laid twice a day?
Well, you know, getting laid twice is like 2 times more than I've been laid in the last 15 years.
Well, you went to Hawaii not long ago. Did you not get laid over there back then?
No.
What, with football?
Did not. It was with the basketball team. Did not get laid at all over there.
See, I was told, Rick always told me as soon as he got off the plane, whether he was in Hawaii or not, he tried to get laid as fast as possible.
Does not surprise me.
Yeah.
When you're packing like Ric Flair, you probably should try to use it, right?
Neil Wagner says, what was Tony's honest thoughts on the state of the company at this time compared to 2 years ago in 1996? Did you feel like you had more or less momentum in 98?
I thought we had less momentum. That's probably, I'd really have to think about that, but I thought we had less momentum. Again, I thought what
even
happened.
6 days after the Georgia Dome?
Yeah, I just thought what happened.
Starcade tainted it for you.
Yeah, I did.
I got you.
Starcade 97, man, I thought was wrong on many, many levels, and it showed that we could build up this great story and say, fuck it at the end.
Fuck it at the end. Okay.
Fuck it at the end.
Matt Guerrero wants to know, would Tony rather have a bash at the beach or a beach blast?
I would rather have a bash at the beach. Beach blasts always reminds me of that little person blowing up a boat.
Well, we got some questions about our next match, which is going to be Bill Goldberg versus Kurt Hennig. But first, let's take a listen to a recap package here about the NWO.
Give Goldberg his first loss tonight, and you people can scream to the high heavens.
So that's when Goldberg beat Scott Hall 6 days prior on Monday Nitro. Of course, we know Hogan's next.
And gets by this NWO brother. Then, and only then, will I grace you with my presence in my wrestling boots and kill Goldberg Hollywood style. I am gonna kick Goldberg's butt. He's got him on! Oh, hell yeah! 1, 2, 3!
What a visual. We see Goldberg standing at the ramp, the pyro going off, the world title in one hand, the U.S. title in the other hand. Here's Michael Buffer making the big ring introductions for Goldberg's first official defense. When you think back to that Monday Nitro where Goldberg beat Hulk Hogan in your backyard, in WCW's backyard, is that one of your proudest moments in WCW, do you think?
As personally or as a company?
As a company.
Yeah, as a company, of course it was. I don't want to make light of that show, but to me, it was just another Nitro. It really was. I remember being in there thinking, wow, this is tremendous. But then again, once you 3, 2, 1 and you're on the air, it's just another show. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It was for me. It means a lot more to the fans than it does to me. And that's good. I'm glad of that. But to me, it's my job. When I think about as a baseball fan, and I talk about the great moments in baseball, I'm sure I can talk to a Reggie Jackson and talk about seeing him in Washington or watching him slide into home plate and blow out his hamstring, or talk about, when he played for the Angels or when he played for the Yankees and Oakland A's. I can recite to him some of his big moments that mean a lot to me. But I'm sure for him, playing
Just
160, just another day, playing 162 games a year. So, but it was a proud moment for us. There's no doubt. And you know what? Compare that to the Sting thing. That was kind of done right. You expected Goldberg to win, and he did. Everybody left happy. So,
Kurt Hennig coming to the ring here, glistening like new money, got himself tan, sprayed himself down, holds up Goldberg's Who's Next t-shirt, but doesn't have it all the way folded out. Reveals when he drops the bottom part of the shirt, he's put a little piece of tape on it, and he says, Goldberg.
mm-hmm.
And then on his way to the ring, throws it to the crowd. Fans are hearing his music, going bananas, doing the chant. This is Goldberg at his height. Let's take a listen to this entrance, man.
Oh, look at him with that belt.
Perfect fit.
You see the divot in his head where he's headbutted the lockers backstage to get himself ready. Goldberg liked to give himself a concussion before he wrestled, which
Amazing.
is maybe the first time that happened. Take a look at the big gold belt. Belt nerds would notice it looks brand new here. That is not a new belt. They've just cleaned the old belt. Of course, it is actually made of silver. It's, I think, the only belt in wrestling history that was actually made of silver, because it was made by guys who usually make rodeo belt buckles. The base metal for most belts is zinc, and then they would plate it with nickel and then gold.
Right.
But the base metal being zinc meant it didn't tarnish, and you could clean it with like an ammonia-free type window cleaner sort of deal.
Wow.
But here we've got the actual silver belt, so we need to clean that tarnish off and all that jazz, as well as the NWO spray paint.
Wow. That's, you know a lot about how to clean a belt, don't you there?
Well, when you
Conrad
own
Thompson.
that belt's over my head right now.
Yeah. Designed or made, I guess, by Nelson Royal, right?
Well, ordered by him, yeah. Nelson
Yeah.
Royal's Western store is his name is still on the back of that belt. People didn't know that until I got it and took the belt off and could show what was on the back of it as we started to clean it.
Yeah.
But it uses Chicago screws on the back. Normally, that's not the way belts are done with the exposed screws on the back. It's usually bolts that are welded on, and then they just put like a thin layer of leather on the back as that leather backing. Well, these were just screws. Oh my gosh. I forgot how Kurt was really super balling for Goldberg here. He just went over the top of the corkscrew flippity doodah there. But yeah, the belt was actually made by Crumrine, which is a rodeo belt buckle maker. That company has since sold. I think they're located in Mexico now, but that wasn't the case back then. Nelson Royal's store is, of course, in Mooresville, North Carolina, and
still open, right?
Still open, ran by the family. And they've got Crumrine cases in there where you can go buy belt buckles that are still being manufactured in that same style, where it has that iconic rope border that belt manufacturers have been trying to perfect ever since as replica or tribute belts to the original. But the border doesn't sit on top. It's on the actual edge like the big gold belt here was. But yeah, the guy who hand drew this, because the way those belt buckles were made is you take like a Dremel type tool and you just etch it in there by hand. It was a guy named Victor Ortiz. He's since passed away. Of course, most of the iconic belts that wrestling fans really get excited about were made by Reggie Parks and later, of course, Dave Milliken and Joe Marshall. But this belt, maybe the most iconic belt in wrestling history, the big gold belt, was actually handmade by a fellow named Victor Ortiz, who I don't even know was a big wrestling fan. I can't imagine he was, because when it came time to make Ric Flair's nameplate, because this is one of the first belts besides the 10 pounds of gold where you could have those nameplates be removable, he spelled Ric Flair's name R-I-C-K. It was a K in Ric Flair. But what great history with that belt. Of course, it was debuted on Valentine's Day, 1986. And here we are over 11 years later. It's now around the waist of Goldberg. It's represented, Jim Crockett Promotions and the NWA, and then of course WCW, and then it showed up in the WWF. And now it's back when WCW is the #1 organization. This is the first era, really, where it's the #1 belt in the world. This NWO run that WCW was on at the time. I suppose by this point in 98, we're in a bigger dogfight. The WWF certainly has more momentum, or so it seems. But if you compare their July 98 numbers, where we had Sable come out and whip them things out, versus this, which was a second highest grossing WCW pay-per-view of all time with Dennis Rodman. You guys won the war on pay-per-view that month, not the WWF.
Wow. The belts kind of interest me, and I think we've probably discussed this before, but it's kind of worth discussing once again.
Goldberg just kicked out of a perfect plex there.
Of course he did.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that's not something you saw a lot of guys do. Normally that meant the end. Listen to look at the crowd stand for the spear.
Woo! Here we go.
Did anybody get more excited about Goldberg than Bobby Heenan on commentary?
Yeah, he was good at it, man.
Listen to this. What a call here.
Oh, he is out. He's going to be able to get him up for the jackhammer. Here's step one. Yes, there's the power slam.
So much for that plan.
So you were teasing something about the belts.
I may have asked this question before, but do you think the fact that they sell replica belts and good ones now has devalued belts?
Yes and no. I mean, on the one hand, I think it gains even more interest in them because people can get excited about them and break them down and carry them. And it's definitely created more belt fans because of those replica belts.
And created more money for the promotions.
Absolutely. But I still think there is an appetite for the ring used stuff, for the real used belt. Like, this isn't a tribute. This is the real deal. Like, they sell replica Super Bowl rings, but everybody still wants a real one.
That's right. I was thinking more of old timers, wrestlers saying you shouldn't be able to wear a belt unless you are a wrestler and won the title.
No, I get
unless
that.
you've earned it.
I'm
not saying I feel that way, but I know that there are some who feel that way. So,
yeah, I get it. They don't want to participate in the cosplays and all that. I get that.
Right.
Tony, give us the time code. Where are you right now?
I'm at 1:58, 14, 15, 16. I may be just a couple seconds behind you.
Actually, I pressed pause accidentally, so we're lined up perfectly.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and stop it down at 1:58:30. That'll give us a few seconds to get there. We see fans still excited about what they just saw. All right, I'm there. I'm going to press pause at 1:58:31. This will be our last official break. We saw Kurt Hennig there not come up victorious against Goldberg, and all I could think was, maybe he didn't start his day right. Maybe he didn't start with one scoop of delicious and nutritious AG1. You and I are doing it every single day, which I guess means you're ready to take on Goldberg. We'll find out soon enough, I suppose. My wife drinks AG1 every morning before she goes and works out. She feels like she's more productive at the gym. It makes her feels like she's ready to take on her day and be unstoppable. She has missed a day here or there, just scheduling wise, and just forgot. She woke up late or whatever. And she's reported back that, man, she could tell a difference. I actually started taking it at the start of the pandemic. My wife's been on this train since like 2019, but she wanted us to strengthen our immune system. And I can say that it changed the way I felt at work. I felt like I had more clarity. I felt like I had more focus. Once upon a time, I'd get to 3 o'clock in the afternoon or so, and I'd have that afternoon crash. Even if I slept great the night before, I just wasn't as focused. I was more tired and run down. But that clarity and focus, man, it's here in spades with AG1 now. I want you to try it too. I want you to try it because if you're tired of taking a bunch of different supplements and you want a single solution that covers your nutritional bases every day, I think this is it. Maybe you're looking for that boost of energy. Maybe you want better gut health. Maybe you want more immune system support. Or maybe you just hate taking pills and vitamins and want something that actually tastes great. Well, this checks all the boxes. Think of it as a way to replace your multivitamin, your probiotic, and everything else in one drinkable habit. It's like a micro habit that has macro benefits. It's a science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source nutrients. AG1 has really just raised the standard in this category. If you're looking for a comprehensive solution, this is it for you. I'm such a big fan of this. I know you're going to be setting yourself up for success when you start your day with 75 high quality ingredients to support that energy and focus and strength and clarity. Think of it as like your all-in-one nutritional insurance. And if a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, man, you got to try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go right now to drinkag1.com/WHW. That's drinkag1.com/WHW. Check it out. You'll be glad you did. So Tony, I'm at 158.31, and we'll give us a little countdown here, and we'll get going here as we're marching towards our main event. I'm at 158.31. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, play.
Team main event, but right now, let's take you to what's been leading up to this colossal matchup.
So there you're seeing the announcement at Planet Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Rodman and Hogan on one side, DDP and Karl Malone on the other side. Again, the speculation and the rumor was that you guys were paying Rodman $750 and Karl Malone $500,000. They're both big wrestling fans. They love the attention. They love the media and all the attention that's gotten them. Here comes Karl Malone driving an 18-wheeler, and he's running into the ring with a couple of chairs, and bam, they bang them together to get Hogan and Bischoff's attention. Dude, what an athlete Karl Malone was. Unfortunately, Dennis Rodman maybe not going to show up in the best condition, according to the Observer.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's tons and tons of media attention involved with this. And he is just, I mean, this is just a few years after he showed up for a book signing in a wedding dress. Like, he knew how to capture this attention.
Yes.
And there's lots of speculation about, you know, would he be worth it or would he not? Meltzer wrote, Rodman showed up apparently in no condition, whether it was physically, mentally, or both, to perform. He fell down when he wasn't supposed to and basically stumbled around and screwed up a few spots early with DDP, where you could practically see Page swearing under his breath about waiting his entire life for his day in the sun to become a real life celebrity. And all of a sudden it was a hailstorm all over him and no roof over his head. And then off camera, as Hogan was having to carry a match that was going way too long, Rodman put his head down on the turnbuckle and it almost appeared he was going to take a nap. Sorry, folks, but it was established that who Rodman was before he ever showed up for work. And if he can stay out all night in the middle of the playoffs and he can't even get up for practice, he certainly isn't going to curtail any of those activities for a fake pro wrestling match. So, as Mike Tenay hinted at during the broadcast, we know the description of his behavior several days earlier at the Pearl Jam concert in Dallas. But we have no idea what he'd been doing for the past week that didn't make the paper. Nor does it get any better, except that he was paid $750,000 for a day of work he ended up sleeping through.
Jesus.
Now, what's frustrating about this is these guys have practiced this match many, many times. Hogan is insisting that this final match be giving 45 minutes,
Oh,
which
God.
would even get the best workers tired and worn out. But we've got an aging worker in Hulk Hogan, a good worker in DDP, and two non-workers, one of which who's probably hung over and all partied out. Whew. Man, what a tall order. And you've had a strong undercard. But Rodman was such a media darling, it was worth the chance. And, well, there you go.
You took the chance.
By the way, I just want to remind everybody, we saw Chris Jericho and Rey Mysterio earlier in this program wrestle for 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally supposed to be 18 minutes. Chavo and Eddie was cut short. Booker T and Bret Hart was cut short. Conan and Disco Inferno, which was supposed to be a wrestling match, wound up just being one high spot. On paper, this would have been a really, really strong show, but because everything was cut in order for this match, a lot of fans were disappointed. And a lot of fans would have said, this is another of those coffin on roller skate type moments. You know, the finger poke of doom was a disappointment, and Starrcade 97 was a disappointment, and this performance was a disappointment. We see Hogan and Rodman come into the ring here, and it looks cool. They're talking trash to the camera, but it's about to the train's about to come off the tracks.
Yeah, but then the bell rings, right?
And yes, as Bruce always says, and then the bell rings.
Yeah. I just think that being in the shape that he was, and you know, at the time I didn't realize it. I didn't realize because I wasn't around Rodman at all during the day. I didn't realize what shape he was in. But I think the fact that he came to the ring and performed like this just shows you how unprofessional he was. And not only that, it just shows you how much he thought, it's pro wrestling. What does it fucking matter, right?
Yeah.
Which is wrong. It's our livelihood. It's what we do we take it seriously. Even though, as many of our fans realize, and a lot of people realize, even though there's a lot of bullshit in wrestling, as there are in many other sports, those of us who work in it take our job very seriously. There you go.
These guys are going to go 23 minutes and 47 seconds. On the way to the ring here, as we're getting this set up, I guess we should give some a chance for some questions that we got for this show to come out. I want to mention that Goldberg Kurt Hennig match only went 3 minutes and 50 seconds, got 1 star, but Jason Bayless has a great question.
All right.
Can you ask Tony about the rib that Kurt Hennig was going to pull on Goldberg during the world title match by kicking out of the jackhammer at 3? The idea being, yeah, okay, you pinned me, but after the 3 count, I kicked out. He didn't wind up doing it, but do you remember hearing what if? Because that feels like something Kurt would have done.
It wouldn't surprise me. I don't remember hearing it, but I think if that had been circled around the dressing room, no one would have been surprised. However, that would have not been a rib. That is something you just don't do. That is disrespecting your opponent.
Yeah.
When you kick out right at the 3 count or right after the 3 count. So that wouldn't have been a quote unquote rib, a Kurt Hennig rib. That would have been Kurt not being a pro. And he was.
That vest that DDP's wearing right there was in my personal collection until this past year. And I unloaded it, got a good deal, got a trade going. But it's pretty fun, man. This is DDP's biggest moment. You know, he hasn't won the world title yet, but he's in the main event on what's going to be the biggest pay-per-view of 1998 for WCW, and wrestling against 2 guys, 2 NBA Hall of Famers who were just in the finals. This is his first big moment to really break out and become a mainstream star, if you will. And they're running right into the ring and getting right after it. And I know a lot of people have wondered, like Instagram, a wrestling historian, he says, how many buy rates do you think Goldberg versus Hogan on pay-per-view could have gotten? Thanks in advance. So if we wouldn't have done that show, if we would have announced on Thunder that that's the main event of Nitro, or not Nitro, but of this pay-per-view instead of Nitro, Hogan versus Goldberg, could it have done perhaps even more buy rates than they did? I think the answer is yes.
Of course, the answer is yes, but it would have never happened. And it was the downfall of being owned by a television company.
Well, at the same time, I think you could have put this match on Nitro. Imagine the rating you would have popped having on free TV, Hogan tagging with Rodman against DDP and Malone. Like if you just switch them, you maybe could have sold more pay-per-views and popped an even bigger rating.
Yeah. Point well taken, buddy.
Where would you have wanted to do that show? So, like, if you had your druthers, and I know that the buildings were booked way in advance, but would you have wanted this match to happen in Salt Lake? Would you have wanted this to happen in Chicago? If it's in Chicago, people are going to cheer Rodman.
Yeah.
If it's in Salt Lake, they're going to boo Rodman. That, to me, feels like if you had your druthers, let's find the biggest arena we can in Salt Lake City. Maybe where the Jazz play.
Yeah, the Delta Center or the Delta Arena at that time.
Woo, that would have been amazing.
That would have been great to have it at that time. Smarten me up because I don't know. I don't know what's going on in social media, but apparently Karl Malone has had problems.
Yeah, as I understand it, he's got 182 children.
Okay. I see some of the comments here on our live page that Karl Malone was anything but a good guy in real life. And
yes, there's been lots of controversy about his real life. He was positioned here as a good guy, and certainly he had a ton of babyface support here. But yeah, I think he came out about 5 years ago and talked about his relationship with his kids, and he says, I didn't handle it right. I was wrong. Father Time is the biggest thief that's out there, and you can't get it back.
Yeah.
But there's been,
had relations with a young girl or something like that. I don't know.
It's listen, all the basketball accolades are there, but there's a real life trail of problems in his real life that were just related to not being able to keep that wiener meat under control.
Yeah, I guess that's a problem.
Ryan Horton had a great question for you personally, Tony.
Oh boy.
Dennis Rodman was famously nicknamed the Worm in the NBA. If Tony was a basketball player, would he have been called the Button?
That's probably pretty good. That would probably be, I was thinking of the Vienna sausage.
Well, I don't know that you could use a brand like that, but I like that. Why can't we get you a Vienna sausage, do you think?
Why can't we get me a what?
Why can't we get you a Vienna sausage endorsement? Like, why can't we get your face on the can?
I don't know. Maybe because I don't eat them anymore. Maybe because I'm changing my lifestyle. I'm changing my diet. I don't know. Could be. I mean, to really be able to endorse something like we do, you really have to use the product. But I don't use Vienna sausages. I don't use Vienna.
You're ruining your sponsorship opportunities right now.
I don't eat Vienna sausages.
What if we just called you Teeny Weenie?
Or, as we used to say, Vienna sausages.
Yes. Mini Max wants to know, bringing in these mega celebrities for pay-per-views and even some TVs, what was the feeling among the production team and the boys during these moments where everyone knew more eyes beyond wrestling fandom would be on the product? Was there extra added pressure for that, do you think?
I don't know if there was added pressure, but I think there was extra added excitement to what we were doing. I think it made us feel mainstream, which we were, and it made us feel big time. It elevated everybody, I thought. Again, I'll go back to this. I think the single biggest moment in WCW is seeing Eric Bischoff on the Jay Leno set. That blew my mind when I saw that. Here was WCW back in the day when I first started working for them under Kip Fry, doing a WCW Saturday night talk show with JR, remember? For the first part of it. Completely changing it. Trying everything they could to get the rub from celebrities. Even having, well, they had one of the guy from Alabama. They had Dave Casper. They had every B-lister they could think of. Not the guy from Alabama is a B-lister, but they had B-list, just anybody they could think of. The attempt for us to get the rub, to elevate our product to national prominence, we just couldn't do it. Hogan comes aboard, and all of a sudden we're doing things with Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone and Jay Leno, and you see Eric Bischoff sit on Jay Leno's desk with his feet propped up in the air. To me, I'm thinking, we have fucking arrived on a national stage when that moment happened. So to me, having these athletes here helped us a great deal, I thought.
Matthew Damron says, did WCW get any heat from the NBA or the Bulls organization for Rodzilla wrestling with the NWO instead of focusing 24/7 on winning another NBA title with his other team, the Bulls?
Yeah, I think that's pretty well documented, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, in that Michael Jordan thing that they did.
I want to mention the Bob Costas situation. This is a great question from Joe Lawson. He says, does Tony know about the smartass remark that Bob Costas said during the NBA finals about Rodman and Malone? Follow up, do you think it helped or hurt the buy rate of this show, Costas giving away the main event before it was advertised? Just to give context here, he mentioned after Rodman and Malone got tangled up on the court, Costa says the pair are scheduled to, quote unquote, wrestle in one of those bogus events. He followed that dig by saying, why Malone wants to lower himself to that is anyone's guess, and Rodman apparently wants to start the wrestling now.
Mm-hmm. Well, my opinion on that is that anytime Bob Costas says something, you take it with a grain of salt, because anybody who knows anything about broadcasting and broadcasters knows he's one of the biggest pieces of shit out there.
There you go.
Yeah. He is. End of story.
Dylan Leahy wants to know, do you think Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman was the best celebrity involvement in wrestling in 1998, or was it Mike Tyson?
Well, Tyson certainly is fortunate. That was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think you can get any bigger than the NBA Finals. So, yeah.
Gamma wants to know, what was your first thought on seeing Malone and Rodman on the card, and did you think fans would actually like the match?
No, I didn't think fans would like the match, but I think fans would wanted to see the match. That's pretty cool right there, what Rodman just did.
Let's take a listen to you guys.
Very interesting. Very successfully, very methodically, obviously very slowly, Dennis Rodman has turned the complexion of this match. And say what you want to about him, he's not really done that much with the exception of a side headlock, but he has taken command of this match many times.
Well, he does that on the court too, you know.
Do you hear the fans chanting boring, Tony?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
An article in the Miami Herald claimed before the match that the finish of the main event would be Malone pinning Rodman after a diamond cutter. Chris Kanyon and Billy Kidman were helping DDP get Karl Malone ready. Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan had people representing them asking for tickets to the show because they were playing in a golf tournament not far from San Diego, but neither showed up. So that's the reason you said there's been speculation that there will be a lot of big NBA stars here, because you didn't want to say it and then not happen.
Right.
But there were other stars there: Tracy Murray, Chris Chelios, Antoine Carr, lots of big stars in the traditional sports world.
Why didn't we show them? Or did we?
I don't think you did.
Yeah. So there you go.
It was never announced on TV, but Meltzer would say there were plans for Sting and Lex Luger to have a title defense against Scott Hall and the Disciple, but they dropped that match and instead went with Conan and Disco Inferno. just so they could give the NWO Wolfpack a brief appearance on the show. Hall and Scott Steiner, among others, were also there and just made a cameo after the main event. And even though Hogan wanted 45 minutes for the main event, winds up finishing about 12 minutes early, and they're going to have you guys kill time as talking heads to go off the air about 7 minutes earlier than planned. So you didn't have to cut all those other matches. You didn't have to cut all those other times, but we did, all because we're trying to appease Hogan, which normally gets a lot of criticism, but I actually kind of get in this case. Like, you're getting a lot of mainstream attention for this, but I think if anybody would have put their foot down about this, we would have said, hey, this can't go 45 minutes. It has to be less. Like, these guys don't know what they're doing, so it can't be 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Meltzer, of course, is also obsessed with size. They're going to go 23 minutes and 47 seconds, but he says the size deal was hysterical here. Rodman claims to be 6'6", and Hogan is a few inches shorter, but Buffer called him 6'7", and then he said Rodman was 6'8".
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tenay then talked about how Rodman led the NBA in rebounds, even though he's only 6'6". They're not mentioning that Karl Malone's sister passed away just a few days prior to this match. That was heavily publicized, and there was even speculation on some of the message boards that maybe he'd missed the match, but that was never a consideration. He was committed to being here. Man, listen, it seems like a good idea on paper. It got a lot of attention. It sold a lot of pay-per-views, but maybe wasn't this home run in execution.
But didn't we expect that?
I mean, I think you would have to, right? Like, why would you
Right.
think these guys who've never wrestled before
We're going to be
are
good.
great in-ring performers? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They've never done it.
It was going to be a shit match, right?
Yes.
We knew that. And it was more about the spectacle than it was about the match itself. And look at the fans. They're not going crazy, are they?
No.
Okay, we're talking about the guys there, Chris Chilios and all the guys right now, but we're not showing them.
Right.
Craig Leather strikes again.
Devin Dowling, watching along with us here on our live chat, wants to know, can Tony talk about his latest basketball experience, losing the Sammy Guevara championship to -1 in a game of horse?
Yeah, that was a low point of my year last year. Losing that little son of a bitch. Little guy. He's a cheater. You know that, don't you?
-1?
He's a cheater. Yes,
I didn't
he
know
is.
that.
Yes, he is.
Why'd you call him a son of a bitch? You don't
Yeah.
like Amanda?
Huh?
Nothing.
No, that is a figure of speech.
I know. I'm just kidding. Jesus.
Okay.
This match was so well received in the Observer. It got a -1.25.
What my basketball game did against -1?
No, that got a -1.
Oh, okay.
-1 got a -1. This match we're watching
Okay.
got a -1.25.
Yeah. Well, it was going to. I think a -1.25 was probably more than we anticipated for it, because you got two guys who are not wrestlers. You've got a Hogan that Dave Meltzer hates, and you got Diamond Dallas Page, who's coming to his own. And so you knew it was going to get a terrible rating. We knew it was, but as announcers, it was our job to try to elevate it. That's what we do. I mean, it's like sometimes people say, why did you say this? Why? Because it was my job to say it. It was my job to make it more exciting than it was. Please, come on. I'm not going to say at times what I really think about a match. I'm not. Just not my freaking job, dude. And it's not sucking up to a wrestler. It's not sucking up to a boss. It's not. It's your freaking job.
Yep.
You work on an assembly line and you say, I'm not going to do that because I don't like this product. Well, what the fuck are you doing on the assembly line? You just do your fucking job the best you can. End of story.
Meltzer would say, the best thing I can say about Malone is he was better than a lot of beginners I've seen in their first match. You've had much more training, and I've seen beginners a lot better as well. And for his age, and hell, for any age, he has a hell of a physique. As for Rodman, I think it's wonderful that wrestling is such a great business that a guy can score that much money and stink the joint out and still have people begging for him to do it again. because it gets media attention, which in turn sell tickets. But when it comes to wrestling, as good or as bad as it gets, that's the real bottom line, because economics say so.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
Yep.
You know, and listen, at least he's acknowledging that, because I don't think we have to worry about him ever changing his mind and giving Hulk Hogan a 5-star rating on a match. But my goodness, he drew 5-star money.
10-star money.
10-star money.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm pretty excited because next week, Tony, we're going to be getting together and we're going to be watching most of the original All In. And that was such a historic moment. You know, we're 5 years removed from that anniversary at the end of this month. We're going to have the second All In. We're going to be watching it right before that big Wembley show. This should be a lot of fun. And this is really the proof of concept that led to the creation of AEW. One of the biggest things we're going to be watching next week is Cody Rhodes wrestle Nick Aldis for the NWA title, which a lot of people felt was the spiritual main event because it had been so well done with that video that Dave Lagana, that video series he had going, the 10 pounds of gold. Man, it felt like the culmination of a story for Cody Rhodes. Jay Lethal will also be in there defending his ROH title against Flip Gordon, who won a battle royale under a hood in the pre-show. Of course, Flip's story at the time was he was trying to do anything he could to get on this All-In card, and there was never a spot for him. Well, somehow, some way, he sneaks a win on the pre-show in the battle royal, and now he's going to challenge for the Ring of Honor title against Jay Lethal, who I know you and I think a lot of. We'll also see Kenny Omega take on Penta and Bandito. Rey Fenix and Rey Mysterio will take on the Golden Elite. This is going to be an incredible opportunity to relive one of the biggest moments in wrestling history, the hugely successful All In, and really what started it all, not just for StarCast, but AEW. We'll be doing some of that next week, and that is going to be a lot of fun.
Isn't that like a 10-hour show or something like that?
We're not watching the whole show, Tony.
Okay.
We're starting with Cody Rhodes.
Okay.
And picking it up from there. But
okay.
That whole show, yes, it was a very long show. Unfortunately, Okada and Marty Scurll, as I understand it, Okada went a little longer than everybody would have liked. So the main event wound up being a little shorter. I think we'll wind up watching a little less than 2 hours of that program. But by the way, you get all these shows early and ad free when you join us on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/WHW Monday. We also have that same opportunity for you over at adfreeshows.com. We've got a ton of new bonus content over there, like our brand new show, Tuesdays with the Taskmaster, False Finish, where we talk to people who are now out of the business and talk about their moment in the sun. Very recently, we sat down with Zach Gowen and got his story. You get to pick the brains of Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick every Monday on Monday Mailbag. They alternate. So you hear from the third man in the ring in the WWF, and then the third man in the ring in WCW. We have a fantastic series we're doing now called The Insiders. These are the people who work behind the scenes in professional wrestling. Recently, we sat down with Dan Bynum and talked a lot about his creations and innovations with our old pal Keith Mitchell over in World Class. Once upon a time, wrestling was a 1 or 2 camera shoot. With these guys, it was 5. They also mic'd the ring and had people standing on the apron for the first time. Music videos. There were so many different things that started with World Class. You'll hear all about it from Dan Bynum. And if you grew up loving Tony Schiavone like I did, you're going to love the book with David Crockett. We have Jimmy's famous red books, the actual handwritten booking sheets from 1985. We go through it month by month in conjunction with the month we're in at that time and break down the gates, the matches, the shows day by day. It's really special. I think you'll love it. And David Crockett just loves talking about it. I love working with David. You'll love it too. All that is available as bonus content over at adfreeshows.com. It starts at just $9 a month. That's like 20 cents an episode. You'll hear it early and ad free, plus all the bonus contents, plus the live recordings of the podcast. Plus it can be a part of the live Q&A chats and the bonus content from each and every show. That's all over at adfreeshows.com. As we're watching Dennis Rodman tag in here, and it looks like he's going to be in there with DDP. Let's take a listen and just get what you guys are talking about on commentary here, as fans seem to be a little bored with what we're seeing so far.
That Rodman and Malone would excel in, and that would be to keep your win. Running up and down the basketball court, many.
So he tagged Rodman in. Rodman did the move and then went back out. Hogan tagged him again. So Hogan's technically the legal man, but Rodman doesn't know what the hell's going on. And even though he is one of the greatest athletes of all time, looks gassed and lost. And I would imagine DDP's got his head down. He's calling for help, saying, just get me in the corner. Hogan knows what to do.
Yeah, the mere fact that he's wearing jeans, I don't know. And I know some guys wear jeans today. It's part of their gimmick, but
yeah, DDP wore jeans.
Yeah, but to me, he wearing jeans just says, I'm not going to take the time to get any tights or any pants.
Well, you know what? Why don't you get some tights and pants over at lowestrules.com? We've got tons of new great merch and swag over there for everybody to check out. Do you like do you like food? We've also got a big motherfucker shirt, which is not available in small motherfucker sizes. I said to myself, how about bug tattoos? How about tumblers? How about tank tops? It's all available now at Lowest Rules. Check that out. By the way, the easiest, cheapest, best way to support the program is to check us out on YouTube. It's one thing to hear the show. It's another to see Tony start laughing and those shoulders start shaking. That's WHW on YouTube.com. It's available for you now. And we're also going to switch up our format a little bit here, Tony. We're going to throw the keys to the audience again for a bit. We want your suggestions. What do you want to see?
Yeah.
We know we're going to be watching All In to get you ready for the next All In. But after that, hey, man, it's up to you. Make your suggestions now at WHW Monday on Twitter and Facebook. Seriously, tweet us and throw a little imagery in there. Find a snapshot from one of your favorite moments or favorite shows. Post it to social and tag us in it at WHW Monday. Tweet us in it. If you're doing that on Facebook or Instagram, we will see it. That's at WHW Podcast on IG, at WHW Monday on Twitter, which I'm a more regular part of. Once we find some of those most suggested topics, we'll put them on a poll and let you guys pick. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with something you pick. Next week, it's All In, but the week after that, throwing you the keys to the show. Tell us, what do you want to see at WHW Monday? I also love to have you go ahead and like us and leave us a 5-star review if you think we've earned it. And I want to mention that if your business targets men, man, we got them. 25 to 54-year-old dudes, love them some Tony Schiavone. No better place to advertise than right here with us if you're targeting those guys. You've heard us do some of the same ads for the same companies for years. Why is that? Well, because it really works. And with our super targeted audience, there's very little waste. Go right now to advertisewithwhw.com to find out more about advertising with What Happened When. That's advertisewithwhw.com. And you can hear us shilling your products here sooner rather than later. Man, they're really working in this match, and there's still a few minutes to go. But we got a double team now with the heels working over DDP in the corner. Is this, when you think about all the tough matches you had to call in WCW, where does this one rank? I know sometimes the stuff was so great you could have done it in your sleep, but when something's bad, how do you power through that? How do you soldier on?
Well, you try to ramp up the excitement, and you try to oversell it, and that's what was wrong with my career at the end, because everything was. Not everything
in the history of our great sport.
Not everything was great. A lot of that shit was really, really bad. So you tried to bring it up a little bit to make it sound more exciting than it really was. And I've got to say this, maybe I'm wrong here, okay? Rodman, for all the shit that's been talked about for him in this match, okay, was working pretty hard at times, don't you think?
Are you suggesting that Dave Meltzer was over dramatic and had his favorites and shit on him?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, he was always critical of DDP, but DDP won him over. But then he was always critical from the start to finish on Hulk Hogan. And man, this is the hot tag here with Karl Malone. He's clearing house on everybody.
And the fans are getting into it now, right?
Yes, they are. Let's try it.
And the worm.
Malone grabs Hogan, grabs Rodman, and they're going to meet somewhere in between. Karl Malone has arrived back in this ring for about his third tour of duty here in the tags with a vengeance. And you can see his face. He's enjoying this. We talked about the sick.
Hogan threw himself into the turnbuckle for an 11th one. My God, I love that. Rodman completely removes his hand. He throws it in. And now look at him calling for the diamond cutter. Fans are with it. Let's see what happens here. Rodman stretched out, hanging over the turnbuckle.
Yeah, he's blowed up, but he was bumping. He was freaking bumping though, guys. He was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hogan telling Carl what to do here.
Oh, and how about that?
Hit him with a big boot. That's a Hogan move. Now he's calling again for the diamond cutter, pointing to him like he's going to do it. Tags in DDP. Let's see what happens.
Diamond cutter DDP. Here he comes. There it is. There it was.
Cover him, Dallas. Cover him.
Watch out from behind. It is.
Diamond cutter on Rodzilla.
How about that?
Disciple's in, though.
The disciple is in. Oh, he wipes out DDP.
So there was a distraction. Look at there.
Hogan and Rodman win. Right after a pair of diamond cutters with the disciple. Lending the crushing blow to Diamond Dallas Page. They stole it from him. And how about that from Malone?
I'll be honest, I kind of forgot the finish. Boy, you want to talk about anticlimactic. Like you see Hulk Hogan catch a diamond cutter from DDP. DDP has to stall and crawl, and eventually Charles Robinson lets Rodman know, hey, this is when you come in to break up the pin and get a diamond cutter. Rodman steps in, boom, Carl gets him. But that distraction as Rodman or Karl Malone tries to cover Rodman, he's under the ropes, so that's not going to work. So Robinson's telling him, hey, man, I can't count the pin over here. You're going to have to get him out of there. And as that happens, here comes Ed Leslie as the disciple. Nails the Stone Cold Stunner. I guess it's the Blockbuster or whatever they're calling it here. And that's enough to pin DDP. And then afterwards, of course, Ed Leslie catches a diamond cutter from Karl Malone. Carl starts arguing with Charles Robinson. Charles catches a diamond cutter, and out comes the NWO. Scott Hall's out there. He wasn't on the show. Scott Steiner's out there. He wasn't on the show. They're all celebrating, but as you can see, we've still got 5 minutes left in the program, and we're just going to filibuster here. Jesus. But I guess even that, well, there were 7 minutes where we finished earlier. We're trying to mean mug for the camera, but it was a mercy killing. I wish Rodman would have wrestled without his shirt off. I know he was probably doing that to sell merch, and good for him, but he looks more like a professional wrestler with the shirt off. You're talking elite level athletes like him and Karl Malone. Hey man, if you look like an athlete, why not?
Yeah. I laugh sometimes looking back of us going short and see how we handle it.
Yeah.
Very rarely in AEW do we go short. Well, we do sometimes, but I'm trying to remember, and I can't. Who was timing the show back then?
Right.
Maybe it was Jody Hamilton, but I'm not sure who was timing the show back then. But timing a wrestling show is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Because you got a infinite time you got to get out, and then again we would roll those fucking credits. God Almighty.
I like the credits.
I don't like them at all. Your credit should be your paycheck. But
we see DDP and Karl Malone going through the crowd, and man, the fans are loving it. The heels are all at the entrance, just mean mugging, stalling, doing what they can to look cool as we're getting ready to go off the air. By the way, if you're doing what you can to look cool, maybe you need a little help. I can help. In my real life, I'm helping people save money at savewithconrad.com. And we'll show you how to skip your next 2 house payments. We'll show you how to get you the cash you need if there's some projects around the house you'd like to do, maybe upgrade that kitchen or bathroom, or hell, put in a pool or a man cave. Or maybe you're like a lot of folks and you just need a lower monthly payment. We touched on it a couple of weeks ago. I recently helped a family save $681 a month. They didn't just do that one time. They did that every single month because they spent a few minutes on the phone with us. And I'm also talking to you, if you're still paying rent, you can get out of that house and get out of that apartment and get into a house with still no money down. And I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, well, I'm going to wait until the rates go down. Well, everybody else will too. And that's how we got into these bidding wars, where it became what's known as a seller's market. They'd give you no concessions, ask for cash offers, get multiple offers. The houses start selling for $50,000 and $100,000 over list. Right now, sellers are desperate. They'll cut a deal. They'll pay you some stuff. I recently saw a builder say, we'll give you a washer and dryer. We'll give you a refrigerator. We'll give you wood blinds. We'll put in a privacy fence. We'll pour you another patio. We'll pay all your closing costs. When the rates come back down, they're not offering any of that. So right now you can get a great deal. And of course, later on, you can always refinance and get a better rate. It's not like it's a static thing. People usually refinance every 3 to 7 years. You can too. You'll get a lower monthly payment, but you wouldn't have overpaid for the house. We can help you figure out all of that, and you don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket. It all happens at savewithconrad.com. We've got an A+ rating with the BBB and over 1,000 5-star reviews at conradreviews.com. So if you haven't already, check that out. Find out how affordable it can be to own your own home and get out of debt faster with cheaper monthly payments at savewithconrad.com. NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender, savewithconrad.com. Tony, as I'm taking a look at you getting laid not once, but twice.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Bobby Heenan never got laid. And we know Mike Tenay never got laid.
Yeah.
You just, not only was your chair higher, you were double laid, double paid,
double fat.
And double fat. And it feels like right now it's about that time.
I got Bug in my hands right here because Bug is really pissed off that his picture was on savewithconrad.com and he got no royalties for it. As a matter of fact, he just shit on me. That's how mad he is. So
I love it.
Did you see? That was Bug in there. You son bitch. That's his likeness.
Wait, throw that up there.
Okay, really throw it up again. See?
That ain't Bug.
That's Bug. We're desperate out of time. See you next week on What Happened When. We come to you Wednesdays on Cumulus Westwood 1, but Mondays we come to you ad-free on
Patreon. Patreon.com/WHW Monday. And of course, adfreeshows.com.
StarCast returns to the Chicago area this Labor Day weekend. Tickets for StarCast 6 are now on sale at StarCast.com and include AEW All-Out Ticket Bundle options. Join us at the Hyatt Regency Schaumburg starting Friday night, September 1st, for unique fan experiences with wrestling legends from yesterday and superstars from today. Follow StarCast events on Twitter for the latest updates about all things StarCast. StarCast 6 is brought to you in part by ProWrestlingCrate.com. Monthly mystery crates for die-hard wrestling fans. Plans start at $9.95 and are the perfect gift for any wrestling fan. Visit ProWrestlingCrate.com today.
Hey guys, need to call a quick timeout here. Wanted to tell your listeners what I've been telling my listeners over at OU didn't know for a while now about all the cool things happening over at adsfreeshows.com.
Conrad sits down with a pioneer of wrestling television production, director Dan Bynum, who discusses his journey through WCW, ROH, MLW, and where it all began for him, world class.
What really was the thing that catapulted it was, one, working with Ric Flair. He came to the territory and wrestled with the Von Erich boys and gave us so much gravitas. And two, the greatest feud in the history of wrestling, the Freebird Von Erich feud. Mm-hmm. So we were there at the hottest time with the hottest show, and we took over the world.
The Yeti, Ron Reese, sits down with Ad Free Shows members to talk about his infamous night at Halloween Havoc. and how it was received by the boys in the back.
Oh no, I remember like Arn Anderson told me that was the drizzling shits, and Dusty Rhodes was like, that was the worst thing I've ever seen. And I'm just like, hey, thanks.
That's just a small taste of what we got waiting for you. With 4 levels to choose from, see for yourself why ads-free shows is the best value in wrestling today. Sign up now at adsfreeshows.com.